It seems like a simple question. Should the legal drinking age, which currently stands at 18, be raised to 20 years? Well, this week that question received an emphatic yes from a delegation of high-profile New Zealanders, including Sir Paul Reeves, Dame Sylvia Cartwright and Dame June Jackson. They were in Parliament on Wednesday calling on government to reduce the enormous impact alcohol is having in communities and asking all political parties to make their alcohol policies public. But after 11 years of 18-year-olds being allowed to drink legally, is it too late to turn the clock back? Joining me now is Dame June Jackson, who was part of the delegation to Parliament this week, and Abe Ropitini. He's a member of the Labour Party's youth wing who have joined up with youth groups from other political parties to form the Keep It 18 campaign. Tēnā kōrua, thank you for coming in.
Tēnā koushi.
Dame June, why 20?
You know, I haven't been really concentrating on this age thing. I think that at 18, where it's been for a while, I don't think it makes sense in a way to, even though I was with the group that wanted it to go up to 20, that we have already we're already doing it. And so a 2-year difference isn't, in my view, going to make much of a difference.
So you're a bit flexible on the age?
Yes, I am.
So you're not that focused, if you like, on raising the age back to 20?
No, I'm not.
Why is that?
Well, I think alcohol has been here for a very long time. I grew up where alcohol was part of the sharing gangs, and our people, many people managed okay with alcohol consumption. It is fair to say that alcohol has caused a lot of devastation amongst our people, but I think the horse has already bolted. And frankly, I think we should be concentrating more on drugs than on alcohol.
Abe, you wouldn't have much of a problem with that because Dame June, as she says, she's not too fussed on the age. But why do you say keep it at 18?
Well, all of these problems to do with alcohol, they don't discriminate based on age. You know, alcohol is harmful to everyone and anyone, regardless of what your age is. And I think that the wonderful thing about what we're talking about here is that we both agree that there is a major problem for all of New Zealand, and especially for our most vulnerable, and you know, the Māori demographic is caught up in that. Alcohol abuse doesn't discriminate on age. Our approach to trying to solve the problems to do with alcohol shouldn't discriminate on age either. We should be looking at the cultural problems surrounding why alcohol abuse is seen as acceptable in New Zealand and is seen as just the norm for Māori. And that's got nothing to do with whether or not you allow 18-year-olds to drink or whether you allow only 20-year-olds upwards to drink.
What we do know, though, that since the law changed back in 1999, the statistics have got worse, especially around the young-aged group, if you like, between 18 and 24. Drinking problems, excessive drinking, binge drinking, it's got worse.
Yeah, well, can I argue that in that time, other things have changed as well? I mean, we've got a much more visible presence of alcohol in the media. Now we've got, you know, alcohol companies able to put their brands on the jerseys of our best rugby players out there and put their branding all over the rugby stadiums and things like that. It's become more and more etched into our culture. It's got nothing necessarily to do with the age. It's more of a wider cultural acceptance that alcohol is an acceptable kind of part of culture in New Zealand, and that hits Māori the hardest.
Why is it so accepted, do you think? You talk about the early days with alcohol. It was in the sharing gangs. It was everywhere, basically. It still is now. Why do we have such a drinking problem?
You know, we've had it for a long time, and there's a lot of hypocrisy around this whole business of alcohol. A lot of us talk with forked tongue. We talk against it, but most people do indulge in alcohol. I think that we need to be leading by example. We should be talking the talk. It may be too late, but you know, my mind goes to when the capping happens in Auckland, for example, and you see all the drunks, all these middle-class Pākehā students all being drunk on the street, and it's acceptable. So when it gets to Marae, then the focus goes on us in not a very acceptable way. So I think there needs to be a bit of truth about this whole area of alcohol consumption.
Do you agree with that?
I do, yeah. I think that that there is a problem with drinking, but again, it all comes back to fostering this idea that drinking is acceptable. It's something that,
is it acceptable?
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, when we go off to university and we go off to the big wide world, we're opened up to all of these opportunities to make all of these decisions, and because there is we're bombarded with these mixed messages from the media. We've got responsible drinking messages played right after all of these messages from, the famous TUI ads, which we find so humorous and such a part of our mainstream culture. All of these mixed messages, I guess they kind of muddle the minds of, people who are largely irresponsible going out into the big wide world and having to be faced with all of these decisions to drink alcohol responsibly or just to go off their nut.
Where is the leadership with alcohol abuse? Because I dare say that's what you were talking about before, and especially around when you say people have forked tongues. They may be out there saying it's bad for you, and then a moment later they're having a drink.
Well, could I just say to you that I was in my 60s before I had my first drink, and it wasn't that great. But someone told me that wine was good for the heart, so I thought I would have a glass of wine now and again. Well, that put me in hospital with, I had to have a bypass. So much for that advice. Now, what am I saying? I'm certainly not an authority because alcohol was not a big thing in my life. It certainly wasn't a big thing in my family's life. It's only when I got older that I realised that it was affecting Marae disproportionately, and it was a sad thing to see it in those days. I think that we have got the days of boozing and the 6 o'clock closing is gone, and I think that we've become a bit more civilised about it. But alcohol will always be there, and so I don't have any quick answer for how we could change that.
Do you have a quick answer, Abe? You're a young person, being affected, I dare say, with this issue of raising the drinking age back to 20. Do you have a quick answer? What do we need to be doing?
To be honest, I don't think that there is a quick answer. I don't think that anyone's capable of offering one. What I do think the answer is not to arbitrarily raise the age and discriminate against people simply based on their age. What we need to do is try to focus more on making New Zealanders as a whole accept that,
So changing attitudes?
Yes, absolutely. Changing the attitudes behind approaching a drink. It's only when we're able to do that people themselves will start to make more responsible decisions. We seem to be taking the approach at the moment with this Law Commission's report that's come out and with possible legislation on the table that alcohol abuse is something that is done to us by external forces. What I'd like to see is more of an approach which accepts that alcohol is abuse of alcohol is something that we do to ourselves, and it's not until we can accept that we don't have to do that to ourselves that we'll actually be able to change the attitudes behind making decisions that turn out to be irresponsible.
Personal responsibility.
I think that's pie in the sky stuff, this personal responsibility. When we say that, we all must take personal responsibility for ourselves, really. Sometimes we don't know what that means, and we don't know how to do that.
Unfortunately, we have to leave it there. I would have liked to continue, but we can't. We are out of time. But thank you both for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Sure.